So, as Kelsey was saying, I founded a brand called Sitka back in 2002. We've recently had to change our name to Ecologyst due to a trademark issue. I'll talk a little more about that later in this presentation. I wouldn't say I'm a marketing expert per se, but I do have 17 years now experience in listening to our customers and really taking actions on what we hear from them. And I think that is one of the reasons Kelsey asked me to speak here today. So one of the first times that I can remember, taking an action based on what we heard from our customer was we actually started the company by making surfboards, and that was what our business was going to be. We were going to be a surfboard company. There wasn't any yet on Vancouver Island, but we could see that sport was starting to grow here. Fast forward 17 years later, you go to Tofino, it feels more like Malibu than a little fishing village. But we had a customer, we'd probably made maybe 20 boards, had a customer come to us and just say, hey, I really love your logo. It'd be great if you put it on a t-shirt. And it was like, yeah, okay, great idea. Let's try that. And then that pivoted us into becoming a clothing company, a clothing brand. And since then, we've really just been listening to our customers. It really had us move our production back from overseas. We did start by making things overseas, like many companies do, but it pushed us to bring our production back to Canada. It also pushed us to stop making clothing with petroleum-based fibers, so not using polyester or nylon, etc. It also informed our switch to a direct-to-consumer model. So instead of, we used to be mostly a wholesale company. You could get our stuff at Lucid here in Nanaimo if you're from Nanaimo. But we had about 150 accounts in North America and distributors in Europe and so forth. But just in those conversations with our customer, it made sense that we switched to a direct-to-consumer model. And people think we're doing a good job with this loyalty thing. Sorry guys, got to click that. And here's a couple of indicators of our proficiency in it. So on the left there, that's our Net Promoter Score, which is usually hovers around 80, a little bit above or a little bit below that. If you're familiar with this number, that's a real world-class number. It can be as low as minus 100 or as high as 100. On the right, it's probably hard to read, but this is a email from a customer asking if we'd let her tattoo our logo on her body. And this is an outrageous request, but the crazy thing is this isn't uncommon for us. And I think it really speaks to just the love and affinity that people have for our brand. And I was even talking to Kelsey, and she brought it up, and she said she's got our logo on her body. She didn't show me where, but it's there. So this is an uncommon thing. There's only one other brand that I know of that this is like a thing for them, and that's Harley Davidson. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm not like a marketing guru per se, but I'm going to just kind of go over some of the things that work well for us in this presentation. And so, why we focus on customer loyalty. So on the left there, $41. That's how much it cost us to acquire a new customer. So like per new customer was $41 in 2019. On the right, that's how much it costs us to bring back an existing customer to us. So I'd much rather pay $11 than $41. So this is pretty, compelling for us as a company. I did like a little bit of research before this and saw that it can be up to 10 times more expensive to acquire a new customer. So, this is really important. So one of our beliefs, I guess, if content is now the queen and we can all agree that the king doesn't really do anything, then for us, word of mouth would be like the bishops and the horsies and all the ponds, and this is what we're trying to foster always. We believe that our customers don't trust normal advertising. They're smart individuals, and they get when they're being served an ad. And you can disguise it however you want, but they're like, yep, that's an ad. But what they do trust, and what we hear time and time from them, and how they found out about us, it's usually from a friend or a family member. So this is really important to us. And in order to build great word of mouth about your company, and what we found for us is you have to start at the very foundation, and that means building a great quality product. If a product falls apart, they're not going to come back, and they won't be telling their friends how good it is. It's really, really simple stuff. But I think we often, as when we get into the marketing game, we forget about that. But that has to be at the foundation. Then you also have to deliver a great customer experience. If Joe doesn't smile and say hi when a customer walks in, you may never see that person again. So we have a very small team in our office. There's 10 of us, but 3 of those people are on the customer experience team. This is Marlon. He's the manager of that team, and we really prioritize making sure all our customers are really happy. So yeah, build a great product, offer world-class customer experience. This has to be at the foundation. Then, we see it really important that what you believe in as a company, or what we believe in as a company, is really clear to the customer or to a potential customer, so they can quickly figure out, hey, do my values align with that company's values? Us as humans, we understand that we have this deep desire to, feel like we belong to something, belong to a group, etc. We want to make it really easy for our customers to recognize if they do or do not belong with us. And Caroline gave the Fox News example. There's plenty of people that they're not going to buy our stuff. They're not our customer. That's okay. We're okay with that. Yeah, stories. I mean, this is just another way to say content, I guess, would be a synonym for this. But, when we think about the stories we're putting out there, we want to make sure that they're worth sharing. We want to make sure that they really illustrate, what we believe in. One of our advisors is the founder of North Face, this guy, Hap Klopp. And he's probably told me this one story a dozen times, and I'm sure he's told it thousands of times over his lifetime. But it's one that really illustrated a core value for them, which was going beyond expectations for their customer. And so the story, now I'm even telling it, and it's his story, but the story goes that a customer, in the early days, brought a tent in to get repaired, and he needed it for that weekend because he was going on a camping trip. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll fix it up for you. They got into the back, they got into the repair shop. It turns out that this tent actually was from a competitor's company. And they decided to fix it anyways. And, they're still telling this story, 50 years later, just to say how they actually go above and beyond, to make the customer happy. And I think that that's important when you're thinking about what stories you want to share. You want to make sure that they're ones that, your customers, your community is actually going to want to share with their friends as well. Also, when creating your stories, I just think it's more the merrier these days. The more people that you can collaborate on them, the more people are actually going to, see that story, learn about it. Also, I mentioned this in the panel. But I love making content or doing basically marketing anything that actually is going to generate revenue itself, so that it could actually pay for building that content. So you get a bit of a win-win. On the left there, I took a screenshot of a film we made in 2012. And it's still living out there on the internet, iTunes, different platforms. We still get checks every month for, you know, this and other content that we produced ages ago. And I just love that. I mean, this event's, you know, a great example, or other events like it, where you're able to, you know, still put on an awesome event, but you can put on such a great event that people will pay money to go to, but it has also, you know, the added bonus of getting your name out there, your company's name out there. So yeah, I think quality there is important, so something that can last for quite a while. But also in this realm, I think it's important to try out new things too. You know, a certain film that we've put out, you know, maybe it gets, and we put a lot of effort and we think it's going to land well, you know, maybe it gets 25,000 views, something like that, and we're happy, but perhaps we just put one of our toques on like a cute cat and it might hit 1 million or something like that. So, you know, try different things. You never know what the internet's going to think of it. Yeah, so this concept of their brand, this is something that we talk a lot about internally, and how do we make our customers really feel like it is theirs, it belongs to them. At the end of the day, without the customers, there is no company. So we're always trying to find different ways that we can give our customers that feeling that it is theirs. On the right here, this is just an example of a social poll. So we'll do this often enough to try to, if we got a decision to make about a product, you know, we want to see what the customer likes or doesn't like. We'll put it up on the social. We'll also bring people in for one-on-one interviews. We're not as big on focus groups because we find that what you'll get is somebody or a couple people end up dominating that conversation. We feel like we get a lot more value, although it can take more time to, you know, work with each person individually. We just think we get a lot more value out of that. And I'd say user-generated content's been really great for us as well. These days, there's a lot of really great photographers out there, and people get really excited when you use their images. So. Yeah, I recommend doing that. So I mentioned that we had to change our name, and this was something that we learned about having to do it almost a year ago now, and we decided to bring our customers in on the process of having to go through this. And yeah, from the beginning, we let them know that we might have to do it. So they were in the know of that and why we were looking at it. Reason being, there's a Sitka in the U.S. called Sitka Gear that's owned by Gore-Tex, and we told our customers the whole story. Eventually started asking them, hey, you got any good name ideas? Because we want to hear from you. Up here's a list of, you know, some of the ones that they came up with. And it was actually a riff on one of the names that one of our customers came up with that ended up being the one we went with, you know, which is really, really cool. So I think, like, yeah, it's great customers buy your products, but they can be so much more than, you know, just that. We hear about this a lot, transparency, just being, you know, honest and true with your customers. I think that this is really important. We've seen great results from doing this. Every time we, you know, get vulnerable with our customer, show them behind the curtain, inside the kitchen, that like brand loyalty, that love, that affinity just seems to grow. I mentioned it on the panel that This year we tried sending out our investor update, not just to investors, but to every customer that we have. This newsletter that we send, it's usually every 3 months that we send it out. It gets the highest engagement out of any newsletter we send, and we send 2 newsletters usually every week. We usually have about a 16% open rate on those. The investor updates are closer to 50%, and lots of replies from them. So you can steal this if you want. Start sending investor updates. Also, another example of just getting vulnerable, we had a supplier let us know after we had received the goods that one of the colors we were selling wasn't actually organic cotton. And this is a big deal, and quite the mess up. But we just let our customers know what happened. We didn't have a single negative response to that. All we had was hey, we get it, shit happens. And I would say on the other side of that is people just believe us more now when we do say anything, right? And then pièce de résistance here, when we're talking about making it their brand. When we started sending out those investor emails, some of the feedback we were getting was, hey, I'd like to be an investor. With private companies, that hasn't been so easy in the past. Basically, it was only accredited investors or people that knew the founders of companies or so forth that could actually invest into private companies. So being pushed by our customers, we were actually able to find a platform out of Vancouver called Front Funder that enabled us to sell shares to our customers. They didn't have to be accredited investors. So we raised a little over $700K from 206 customers. And this, to me, is just the next level of brand loyalty, to have this many owners, pulling for us and pushing things forward for us. So that's it. And I think we got still plenty of time for some Q&A.
I'll kick off the question. So if you're a new business, you've established yourself. So saying what your mandate and being, presenting your authentic self, you have this following customer base and it's easier. But when you are starting out, how do you put your mandate and put your authenticity out, or do you tailor that to the customer you're going after? How did you start off with that when you had a smaller customer base out the gate? Or did you just do you from the get-go?
Or did I just what? Do me?
Were you just authentic right away?
I think you start there, and then you see what lands, what resonates. Yeah. But I think right from the get-go, you can be talking to your customers. As soon as somebody makes that first purchase, I'd be talking to them why did you give me your money? Basically. Yeah, you want to know why, and then hopefully you can find more people that have that same why. Yeah.
Keep your hands up so I know where I'm going. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, I get 2. I'm really loud. I don't need to. Okay, I guess I'll stand up here. And I do like to talk, so somebody set a timer. It is an honor to hear you and see you up there. I've been following along for years. I started a little business, Modest Maverick, in Tofino. It was not a business. It was a hobby, and Grandma Mark taught me how to sew a week before my first market. So I kind of, as in 100%, started from the ground up. And we talk about taking risks, morals, values. Now, fast forward a couple years later, I am the forefront of my business. I share a lot of posts that are vulnerable. I believe in connecting with customers and people in general, especially with social media nowadays. I guess, I wrote some notes here, but making the change. So I use polyester for my blankets. Because at the time I fell in love with the fabric. It was great, it was amazing. Tofino's cold, it's beautiful, but hey, the fabric was there, and now I fast forward, I'm like, I wanna do more for the earth. I wanna be, I wanna make the change. I guess my question is, how do you make that change? How, like, when you know deep down in your heart you wanna do it, but also as a very small business owner / I don't have the funds in my back pocket. Any advice, any tips you can give me would be super awesome. Thanks. I know it's not an easy one. The pressure's on.
Yeah, what do you make? Oh, beach blankets, yeah. Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the tough choices that we've had to make, and still, it doesn't matter what size business you are. You're like, oh man, that's going to cost us. Like when we shifted direct to consumer, the majority of our business was wholesale, right? Like we had 150 accounts in North America and distributors in Europe and Japan and so forth, and it was like, wow, we're gonna get rid of 90% of our business to switch to direct to consumer, so we can keep the price like of made in Canada, like made at this quality, reasonable. Like that's a hard decision, but for you, can you keep making the products knowing it's not what you actually want to put out there, and then be eventually enough people are going to become woke to like, hey, they probably shouldn't be wearing that as a blanket against their skin, right? You don't want to wrap yourself in plastic. Eventually oh man, sorry. Anyways, the short answer is I think you should go for it. Like make that change. Yeah. It'll be a little bit of a pain for a bit, but yeah, you'll get through it.
Hi.
Hi.
I am hoping you can speak a little bit more to your experience with the name change, having such a well-established name, and then how, maybe what you've learned through that process, what was effective, what wasn't, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, we didn't want to change our name. We really liked our name, so but I've never gone through a name change before, so I only have one experience, nothing to compare it to. But I would say what worked well is that we started having the conversation really early with people, and brought them along, like a lot of our customers along in that journey, which I think was fun for them to get engaged in it. Or at the very least interesting for them to get engaged in it. I've seen other companies go where it's just like one day it's one particular name, and then the next they just change absolutely everything, and that's a different strategy. I'm happy we didn't go down that road, though. I think we got the conversation started earlier, like many months before the name actually changed. So yeah, if you're gonna have to go through that process, I would recommend just talking about it as early as possible, yeah.
Hi, Rene.
Hi.
Julia Jenkins from Integris Pensions. I just wanted to ask you if you plan to market internationally and expand your corporate presence internationally, if you plan to go public as far as shareholder sales. In other words, are you going to list on the market? And also, if you yourself corporately are structured so that you have really good backup with people who think like you think, so that in future times and decades, the whole theme of your enterprise carries on in the same light and interest that you do?
Well, trying to remember the first question. The second question.
Expand internationally and go
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, okay, yeah. First question, expand internationally. Yeah, that was part of the why we're like, okay, we're going to do this name change thing. We had the trademark in Canada, so we could remain and continue to operate as Sitka here if we wanted to, but selling outside of Canada was an issue because Gore-Tex had the trademark for basically everywhere else in the world. So yes, we have some plans in that regard. No plans to be listed on a stock exchange. And then the third question, I mean, we're a pretty small company still, but I would say everyone that we've attracted is like sort of shares my passion and vision for the company. So as of right now, if I died, they would keep it going. If that's what you're getting
You
at.
hope.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi,
Hi.
how you doing?
Good.
I have a personal question for you. It seems like you've got through like a lot of diversity over the last 5 or 10 years with health issues, being highly leveraged, and a name change. And I was wondering what your personal routine looks like when you're having to get through some of those really difficult times.
Wow. Yeah, wasn't expecting that one. I mean, I have a list of 5 things I like to check off in the morning to start my day off, right? If I get 3 out of the 5, I'm pretty happy. Make my bed's one of them. And do a nice job of it, not just throw the sheets on and peace out, make it look good. Like a nice cup of coffee, take my time with it. Write in my journal. Something physical, doesn't have to be for long, 5-10 minutes kind of thing. I count either a walk or bike to work as something there. And then I have a 10-month-old, so I like to spend a little time with him in the morning before going to work. And yeah, if I get 3 of those 5, I'm pretty happy to set my day off on the right foot. But yeah, I feel like this is a whole other presentation you're asking me about. Yeah. Did that answer it, or do you want to go deeper? Or? Maybe we can take it offline, yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Rene. Great presentation. Thank you. Nice
Thanks.
to meet you. My question builds a little bit on Julia's question with regards to ownership. I'm intrigued that what you're doing there. Clearly you are as well. A lot of business owners that I know are really protective of the ownership and of all the hard work they've put into growing their business. So I guess my question is, how do you feel about, I suppose, giving away a bit of the control of your company, and also how does that look 10 or maybe even 20 years from now? Thanks.
Yeah, sharing's caring. How do I feel about, yeah, I mean, one of the ways to grow a company is you bring in some outside capital, and that helps you grow the company, and that's a very standard model. I like the way that we're going about it by actually having our customers be the investors instead of some venture capitalist, and the capital's, I would say, a little more patient. We're building a sustainable company. We're not rocket ship and then rocket ship crashes kind of a company. So I like the path we've started down in that regard. I don't know. I'm not like I can understand how people are like, oh, I've worked so hard and this is all my nest egg and my equity. But if you want to grow, then you're gonna have to. I mean, you may have to give up some equity to grow the business. I would rather see it go to our customers who have really been the ones growing the business for a long time. That just, I don't know, just feels more right, I suppose. Yeah. In 10 years? I mean, physically still probably like splitting my time on the island and up in Whistler. I just love BC. Whenever I've gone somewhere else and come back here, I'm like, holy Moses, are we lucky to live here. Am I still running Ecologyst? Possibly, but I'm open to, somebody else could be doing a better job of it than me in 10 years, and that's fine by me. Yeah.
Mr. Rene, hi, my name is Frank. My question to you is the name Ecologyst has come from the customer, is that right? The brand name?
Yeah, so kind of a lot of, well, not a lot. There was a few people that sent us the name Ecology.
Okay, so sorry.
And then so we riffed off of that. A lot of the names you saw up there, they're like, it's a really great name, but somebody else already has it somewhere. Or there's somebody else already has the URL or this particular handle or so forth, right? So once we started narrowing things down and finding some names we really like, then you got to kind of play with them a little bit to find one that's actually available. Yeah.
Oh, I thought like the customer gave you, and my question was like, how would you show that the customer's feedback is valued? How would you, maybe a discount?
Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah, when you're you're essentially getting your customers to do some work for you. There's value to that, and you ought to, at very least, follow up. And say, hey, like you came up with this one for us. Like, thanks so much. Like, that's at bare minimum, right? When we're talking to certain customers and they've given us an idea for a product like that customer is going to get one of those products for sure once it's, we've actually made it and it's complete. Or they might be the one that gets, because we do field testing with our customers. So when we're bringing new products to life, we'll actually work with some customers to get some of the prototypes. They get to wear it for several months, give us feedback on that. So perhaps the person that gave us the idea might be the one that actually gets to do the field testing as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Hi there, just a quick question. Just wondering how far you think your company's values will carry you in the buyer's decision-making process, for example, against competitive pricing.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we don't really compete on price. So, our stuff is not the cheapest out there, that's for sure. So I put a lot of weight on the values and the where we're making it, like who's making our product. Another thing that our customers informed us on was just they want to know who's actually making the product. So we actually started our own factory in Victoria, so we can actually be the ones building it and really, showing that side of it and being, proud of who's making it and tell that story, and then allow the customer to be like, oh, hey, by the way, this lady Mira, like, I got to meet her. She made my vest. But yeah, sorry, to get back to your question. For us, that's a huge part of what people are buying into. Yeah.
Rene, thank you so much for that presentation. My name is Susie, and I own the Susie Q Sitka hoodie. I haven't called it Ecologist yet. I will transition to that. You will always be the Sitka to me. And I think you've done an incredible job of putting the face and values to your business. So it's just kudos. Thank you.
Oh, thanks very much.
All right. Thanks for the presentation. It was awesome. Love the brand. I just wanted to know about, sounds like you guys have a pretty good relationship with your customers, and I'm always wondering about how, with my company, I can sort of scale up that connection, but scale is the key. I imagine if you have a lot of customers and you're being really personal with them and really engaging with them, like that might weigh on your human resources. So I'm just curious if you guys have had any experience with that, or even just with customer support, how you weigh that, the cost of that support versus how much it benefits you.
Yeah, at the size we're at now, we haven't had that issue, but we're doing a lot of things that don't scale very well, right? But I think that's like at the size we're at, we need to take advantage of that. The bigger players aren't able to do what we're doing. They're not getting the learnings that we're getting right now. There's like a now famous Airbnb example of this. They started this company in San Francisco, but their customers are actually out in New York, and they're sitting in San Francisco, and they're like, can't figure this out, right? And Y Combinator guys like, just go to frickin' New York, man. Like, get out of here and go just hang out with your customers, right? So I think when you're small, like that's an advantage you have on the big players, and that's how you can actually, start kicking hotels' butts, right? Or, I don't know what you do, but yeah.
I have a question I wanted to ask, because you had touched that you're expanding to other markets, and one of the things that obviously resonates with me as a customer is that you're so West Coast, like you're just the essence of West Coast. So when you are expanding to these global territories, are you having kind of like a regional strategy and are appealing to those kind of in the same way that you're appealing here? Or are you, again, just being your authentic West Coast South, just taking that brand and putting it in those places and seeing how it takes?
Probably like a little of both. Yeah. Because you're right, that works well for us here. It's just, the hyper-local side of things, and that's why a lot of people support us for sure. That comes up time and time again, and how can we keep that going as we grow? And you see a lot of, like, that's a, buzzword out there, like, regionalization, localization, big brands trying to figure that out, right? So yeah, I think this is what we're talking about internally as well. I wouldn't say we have it figured out because we haven't tried that, but we did used to wholesale our goods, and that was us being like that true kind of West Coast authentic side of things. And I think that can still work if we're opening up a location in Toronto. That might be we can stand out then there. But the local side of things, we still have to build a community there, right? We can't just open up and think it's gonna work. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm curious how you came up with the dollar amount of how much it costs to get a new client and to retain an existing client.
Oh yeah. I mean, we have a calculation. I think other people probably calculate it a little differently, but it's easy enough for us to, allocate the amount of time that our team is putting into each side of things. And then like on the digital advertising, that's really easy if we're targeting people that aren't customers or we're targeting people that are customers, that's easy to see. And then we can see over the course of, a day or in this case, a year, how many return customers we had and how many new customers we had. And we can allocate like a portion of our rents and like other team members and such to those different areas. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Mm-mm.